Kenton, you are out of your mind.
Out of my mind.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. And I love it.
Okay.
Isn't this funny, though, that we say out of our mind and we think that this is a bad thing? Usually this means you're crazy.
Yeah, if you're out of your mind, you're definitely not in reality mode.
But we're going to flip this on its head today.
I get it.
I talk about how when we are out of our mind, we are actually living in our fullest sense of the world.
World? Or
World.
Are you out of your mind? You are. Okay, well, I think the easiest way to come about it is to say, for me at least, when I get hypnotized or I'm on autopilot, I'm actually mostly in my mind.
Yeah.
I am caught in the loopholes and the maze and all of the churning that the ego does. And I miss tons of things.
That is it. That is essentially what we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
When we are caught in our thoughts, in our mind stories, we miss the world.
Mm-hmm.
So join us today. It's going to be a fun vodcast, and we're excited to have you here with us. Hello, friends. This came up for us this morning. We were talking with the girls, our daughters, about being hypnotized. And what we mean by that is essentially being on autopilot, right? Mm-hmm. In this mental space where we no longer are experiencing the world around us. And this has come out of an experiment we've been doing lately where we have been trying to think of our home essentially as this bed and breakfast that we've come to.
Oh, drat. I was going to say, we've done this whole experiment. We've been going to this cool B&B, and it's so awesome because we've noticed how we're so different. We look at things differently, and we say, wow, check out this space. Don't you wish we lived here? And we do, because it's our house. And you can try it too. But anyway, go ahead.
That's it. This idea of seeing the world around us, either for the first time, that's a little trick we're using here, mm-hmm. by going to this bed and breakfast where we get to see our home as if we had never been there before, as if we just arrived. But this goes, that hack aside, this is something that you and I encounter every single day as a basically challenge that hits us.
Definitely. Okay, what makes this challenging? Okay, first I have to jump in and I have to say, we are not saying hypnotism is bad, because maybe some of you have used hypnotism to help yourself quit smoking or what have you. But we're talking about that being mesmerized by something such that that's all that you see is the shimmering, or that's all that you're focused solely, especially for this case, in what's in your mind. And
yeah, go ahead.
Well, okay, so I was going to say our challenge is that we are human doings and not human beings. I fully confess it. Okay, raise your hand out there. Go ahead, you can raise it if you are also a human doing. Yeah, because our culture is so geared towards success and accomplishment and all of these other things that even if I don't necessarily have something to do for the day, I will make myself a list. And that list is never ending. And I often think when I finish my list, then I can stop and enjoy my day. Then I'll stop and listen to what somebody has to say, etc., etc. And that's really challenging for me to get out of that.
I think if you're self-employed like we are, this can get even worse. Because literally, you can take your work and it can become all day long.
Yeah.
Right? But even if we're working on a standard 9-to-5 job, it's also easy to come back and have this endless list. And so we become these doings, as you say. You aptly call it a human doing instead of a human being. And then we can get into what the word we're using is hypnosis. But as you mentioned, what we're really talking about here is an altered state. If you've ever been drunk, for instance, you're in an altered state of mind where you're not seeing things clearly, but the weird thing about this state is that even though when we are in a conscious present state, it feels completely different than being in an autopilot hypnotized state. The trick is when we're in the hypnotized state, we don't realize it.
Wait, I gotta jump in for a second.
Yeah.
Have you ever been driving a car and all of a sudden you realize that you are 3 miles or 30 miles or however far from where you were supposed to turn? You're still driving the car. You were driving the car the whole time, but somehow you were somewhere else and you missed your turn. That's totally happened to me.
This happens to me sometimes when you're talking, and you'll be talking for 5 minutes, and then I'll realize I haven't heard a single word of what you said.
How often? Wait.
Did I just...
Percentage-wise, on a given day, how much?
It's not more than 80.
Thank you, Kenton.
But seriously, we're joking.
No,
but
no, we're not joking. Because
me.
I'll say, "Hey, sweetheart, I'm making tea. Would you like some tea?" And he'll go, "Mm-hmm." And then I'll bring him a cup of tea, and he'll go, "What is this for?" And I'll say, "I asked you if you wanted a cup of tea, and you said, uh-huh," or distinctly, "Yes, I would."
And this is somebody who has a mindfulness practice, who meditates fairly regularly, and makes a real effort to be present. But there are so many moments. Maybe it's because I've been hit so much.
I think it's the choking.
And choke so much.
Few amounts of air.
That's my excuse, but I don't think that's the actual excuse. And I'm going to hypothesize that as we get older,
dangerous.
we often tend to become less and less and less mindful.
Yeah. Until
our whole life, because we're getting in the habit of autopilot, is just kind of running along, getting to the next thing. And we never stop to realize that there's no use in getting the next thing unless we can appreciate the things we have.
Yeah, it's that whole story about the sailboat trying to get to the horizon. And you say, well, I'm just going to sail till I get there. And then you get there, you don't realize you're there because there's another horizon and another horizon. That's how it is for me with my lists and other things. And I prioritize those over stopping, which is ridiculous. I think we need more stopping in our standard American culture. And we definitely need less rushing. And I'm not quite sure where all of that comes from. I think the point is that it's very, very easy, and I say this because I can do this, to follow what your little, I think of it as your little mind or your little me, wants to be important. We want to be valuable. And so that little me says, what can I find that I can think about? What can I find that I can orchestrate? What can I find that I can work on or think about? Oh yeah, well, there's the meeting coming up on Monday. Oh, gosh, I'm not so sure about that. How's that going to go? Or there's, I have a date with John tomorrow night, and I wasn't honest with him about not wanting to go to the concert. And then suddenly, our little me mind goes, well, I'll help you out. And then 4 hours later, we're still thinking about things that could happen and things that we'll say and getting upset. Have you ever gotten upset about some conversation that you've had just in your head about something that probably will never happen the way you imagine it? That's the hypnosis. That's the being kind of enchanted by your own thoughts.
And
you're in your mind, not out of your mind.
I saw a video pop up the other day. It was about, I think, autism. And I didn't go and watch it, but it was suggesting that autistic people were normal. Maybe it was ADHD or something, but we're normal, and the rest of us were basically insane. And if you think about it for a moment, what's our definition of an insane person? Or if we see somebody and they're crazy, they are usually not aware of the actual world around them. Right. They're only aware of the mental process that's going on in their head. They are in their minds, right? Not out of their minds. Right. They're in their mind, so much so that they're no longer cognizant of reality. So when I miss what you're saying, I'm doing the same thing that insane person is doing. And if we cultivate awareness and mindfulness in our life, at least for me, then I start to recognize that most of what I thought of as my normal being, this is Kenton, this is my normal life, I'm really together guy, was actually me being insane. because I was so caught up in my mental images of who I was and what was going on that I was missing the actual reality that is around me.
I think that happens all the time. And I think that's the source of a lot of tension and frustration and arguments and fights, is that we haven't really heard the other person or haven't really seen what is going on. And I think in some ways that's what all the attention seeking is about. We want to be seen and heard for real. But so often, whoever it is that we're encountering, or even ourselves, we're just not paying attention. We actually in our mind a whole lot. But here's the question, who cares? So what? Maybe I like being in my head.
Well, from an ultimate sense, it probably doesn't matter.
But I mean, why are we talking about this? We're talking about it as though it's this really important thing.
Yeah, but if we do want to experience life, because I think for some of us, kind of in life, things are going to unfold in one of two ways, three ways. Either we can maintain our distraction until the day we die. We die of a car accident, we've been distracted, and then it's over. Game's over, done. Or we can go along, and the second option is that we hit something like a cancer diagnosis, or your pelvis fractures, or
and subsequent loss of our jobs, and then, all the things that fell after that together.
Or any other kind of essential disaster that gets us to stop and re-examine our whole way of living. Or we also have the option to do that without the disaster being necessary. That third option is the toughest one, because again, when we're in the hypnosis, we do not recognize that we are. And we can go our whole life and not recognize that there's this huge gift of being present, of when I drink my tea in the morning, I taste it. It is this incredibly rich experience that is unbelievable. But I will not experience that if I'm just drinking my tea in the morning and I'm crazy. I'm in my head thinking about, okay, what's the next thing on my list? Oh, I got to call this person, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Most of life passes me by.
It's the veil of illusion of Maya that they talk about in some of the Indian philosophies.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, where
we take that illusion, that mental illusion, as our reality.
Right. And then we build everything around it. But it is really essential, I think, because there's a lot to be found. First, just in our relationships and in seeing the world, and the sheer amount of joy that we get when you taste your tea versus when you're just drinking it. I think we've all had experiences like that, where for a moment it's something very simple, very ordinary, but it becomes, wow, this thing. It happens very easily when we go someplace new that we've never seen before. Everything looks unfamiliar and we notice everything. After 500 times, you don't look anymore. So that's part of it. But the other part is knowing, I think, the satisfaction of knowing that you are trying, that you're attempting something that is a challenge. And as you get to the point where you are less and less in the hypnosis state, you can kind of have this awesome feeling. And then, of course, you get frustrated because you don't like having any hypnosis state. but it's also just, it's a great practice, a great personal practice. And in some ways, I think that's really necessary in our culture. I think I've said this before, we don't really have rites of passage. We don't have periods of time that we can take just to examine our beliefs and how we want to be in the world. And we certainly don't say, hey, everybody should just pick up a personal practice. What's yours? Right now, I'm working on not being hypnotized.
It's what our culture places value on. And most of us then accept that to some degree. And it changes. That's a very arbitrary thing. I think in the last generation, it was kind of money, steady job. In this generation, it's becoming more online, social media type. And each generation looks at the values of the last generation and thinks that they're kind of outdated. But all of them share the similarity in that we're missing the core. Yeah. So I can have, unlimited of the stuff that last generation would have gone for. But if I can't enjoy those things, then there's no use in having those things. It's the hungry ghost of the,
Yes.
right? I just try to get more and more and more because I just want to see more and more and never having my appetite fulfilled. It's compounded now in our social media generation where I want more and more likes. I want more and more subscribers. I want more and more this. And I'm tempted by the old things because a high social media thing is going to mean lots of money flowing in. And then I'm great, but I may have fewer any actual real friends.
Or time for anything, actually.
Yeah.
Because you are caught in the human doing mode of being.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess the first thing is that we shouldn't beat ourselves up about it because it's kind of the world that we are living in at the moment. But it's nice to bring awareness to it. And I encourage anybody out there who's interested in being present and having awareness in being actually out of your mind to stop and say, how much do I fall into a mesmerized trap? How much do I let the illusion, the veil of Maya just suck me in? And do I want to have more time observing what I see going on? And what might I want to get from that? Maybe you want a deepening of relationships. Maybe you want to pay more attention to yourself or your health. Maybe you just want to know that you're actually experiencing what's really there. So how do we do that?
I think the trick to this is that for a lot of us, we haven't even tasted the other thing. Or if we have, like myself, I've tasted it, but I still haven't had the discipline to really, really make the effort required because it takes some effort. There are many things we can go after in life, and this is one of them. Our forest monks, as we've often talked about, would come to us and they would go on to a specific diet, a super healthy whole foods diet. And then at some point we'd take them to McDonald's. And
yes, you heard that right.
yeah, this is after about 3 months of eating super healthy food.
Yeah.
And a lot of these folks had been on a junk food diet before they came. They never knew what it felt like to be on a good diet. Then they go to McDonald's.
Well, it was fair to say they were very excited. Okay, bring it on. All right. This is going to be super awesome. Because, of course, mentally you associate that with kind of comfort or pleasure or, whatever. So I was like, yeah. And they would go, they would eat. Sometimes you get more. Wow. And then some of them would say, actually, as I ate that, I kind of started noticing, what does it actually taste like? And then, of course, there was the after effects.
So they would describe digestive issues, a feeling of sluggishness, and especially their minds, their mental state, feeling dull and sluggish and kind of closed off.
Or kind of cloudy or...
yeah.
Not necessarily... foggy, I think. Just really...
And so unless they had had that experience of going on to a whole foods diet and eating lean and clean, they would never know what's on the other side. And that's the big trick that so many of us are facing, is that unless we have devoted ourselves to a mindfulness practice, to a meditative practice, we will live in this hypnotic state and not even realize there's anything else. And again, because of that nature of the hypnotic state, even if I have a mindfulness practice, if I let it lapse for me for just a little while, I'll start to go back into the hypnosis and won't recognize that I'm there. So now it just sounds like we got a heck of a lot of work in front of us
to
try to get something that I haven't maybe even experienced before.
The little me mind is like, forget it. You don't need that. But I also wanted to point out that things trigger us too. And I think that's an essential part of it as well. And it does sound like a lot of work. So I think the first thing is to create an experience for yourself that allows you to feel what we're talking about. And it's obviously going to look different for every person. But for a lot of people, at least in the standard American culture, going on vacation, especially if you don't, I don't know how to put this. We also have an idea of what a vacation is. So it's so tough to get past
Yeah.
The crystallized
For a lot of
ideas
people,
of what-
vacation is just going
Vacations
to be
are
a
just
lot of work.
stressful.
Yeah.
So in some ways, you need to pick the thing that sounds the most yummy and the most delicious and the most present, because it can't just be, well, I want to sit around all weekend and I want to watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies followed by every Star Trek there ever was. Then you're missing it still.
These are sometimes called peak experiences. And a peak experience is something that pulls us into mindfulness. And it might be seeing the Grand Canyon. It might be, sometimes they're just triggered automatically. So a lot of people have these experiences where suddenly you're in the midst of your life and suddenly you see your child for the first time, even though they're 8 years old. And or taste the food for the first time. But there's ways that we can get these. And so here's the cool thing is that you've given us an entrance into feeling this that is yummy. So take a vacation, but make it so it's not stressful.
Right.
Don't fall into...
Yeah, don't plan a ton of things. And so we did just B&B at our own house. And we said, you know what? We're not going to work. We weren't no tech forever or whatever. It was just, that's not the point of it. The point is that we're here to do some stuff together as a family. We're here to look around and go, wow, this is so beautiful. How lucky the people that own this place. And so I think there's a couple of messages from that as well, which is that you can use your imagination. And the other thing that we did, I'll come back to the imagination. The other thing that we did was we drove around and we looked at things that we'd seen before, but we pretended we'd never seen them.
Yeah.
And we also went down some roads we'd never gone down before and said, oh, I wonder what's over there. So a couple of things can happen. You can use your imagination. For example, if you're drinking your tea, imagine that you just got sent this tea, one tea bag from your best friend who said, this is my favorite tea in the whole world, and I want you to just to taste it and tell me what you think of it. And if you like it, I'll send you more. So you can use your imagination to set yourself up. You could have a novel experience. You could go down a road you've never gone down before. You could go into a shop you've never been to. You could visit the town right next door to you that you never go to. There's a lot of different ways that you can begin to imagine, see, and then express. Wow, oh, this tastes, wow, I think it tastes cinnamon in there. Or, oh, wow, I never noticed that this road goes right down and it goes to this ravine that everybody talks about. Or start to express to yourself out loud to other people, and it becomes really fun. It makes me think of Ellen Langer.
Oh, yeah.
And her experiment. You want to talk about that real quick?
Which one?
Well, I'm thinking about when they took the old men and they bussed these older men, I think in their 80s. They took all this, kind of health and mental information, and then they bussed them into this weekend retreat. And they had these two kind of structures that were the same. And they were going back to the 1950s when they were, I think, in their 20s or whatever. I don't know. You do the math and tell me what the age is. Anyway, I'm probably wrong there. But the point was, one group was going to go back and they were going to just be in this 1950s or 40s or whatever cabin and hang out. And the other group was going to pretend like they were 20. And they were going to talk like they were 20, and they were going to talk like it was that time. And after that weekend, they pulled both of those groups back out and they ran the same kind of tests.
Blood work and
eyesight improved, all these crazy things totally improved in the group that actually pretended they were 20. Biomarkers improved. Yeah. And this can happen again. Pretend that you have never seen your house before, or pretend that you've never gone to the park and do something totally different. Swing on a swing. So that's one way to, quote, set up a vacation without having to get into the kind of sort of heavy weight of a vacation.
So you have given us a tool that is fun to use. And imagination is fun to use. As we get down our journey further, we start to realize, kind of almost everything we're doing is imagination. We've just been using it in very unfun ways before.
All those conversations we would have in our heads about the conversation we're going to have with meeting at work, blah, blah, that's just our imagination too. Yeah. So why not use your imagination to make your life more fun?
Future projections. Our imagination goes wild, and all of us tend to be very imaginative. We just don't realize we're doing it. So here you're harnessing the imagination, and using it to give us a glimpse into what we're missing. And so now we have peak experiences. We have things like planning a fun vacation. We have using your imagination. All these things are actually fun routes. And that gives us a clue to what's waiting on the other side. Because imagine that for a moment. Imagine that your whole day is a peak experience. The other day when we did our bed and breakfast thing, my whole day was a peak experience.
Yeah.
I have all these memories of the incredible way the clouds looked in the sky, seeing you and being enchanted, the laughter of our children, so many things, and things that maybe I wouldn't have considered good even. But they all were beautiful and full and rich. I was alive. The day after that, we didn't do that.
It was really kind of a bummer.
I was a zombie.
Oh, totally.
A walking zombie. But every time we do this, we start to recondition our minds. And I've found in my life that the more I do these things, the more I soak into it. But you've got to practice it.
And you're burning neural pathways. There's only one way to achieve anything, and that's essentially to practice it. So if you want to replace one way of looking at something with another, you've got to practice it, as dorky as it sounds. I mean, Liliana, I was asking her a question the other day about just kind of being in a bad mood and how she kind of got through that. And she said, I know it sounds funny, but sometimes, well, she said, Mom said to go get a pencil and stick it between your teeth, right? Because then you put it right back here, and you're forced to use your smiling muscles. She said, I don't usually have a pencil, so I just go like this. She said, I count to 60, or I just do this for a little while. But that's kind of the idea, is maybe you feel super dorky. I'm not going to say out loud how beautiful my houseplants are. Do it! What have you got to lose? You have everything to gain in having joy and having just a moment of seeing something. But I can't say for how it really is, because we don't know. It looks different to me than to you, than to somebody who's colorblind. The point is to get to something yummy. When you can experience something yummy, you know what you're aiming for. It's about fun. Fun is just enjoying something for sheer enjoyment. There's no goal behind it. There's nothing. It's just fun. And those are the times, to me, that life just really is yummy. So when you found the yumminess, then see what it feels like. You even write it down. This is what I did. This is how it felt. And then there's steps that we can take to get ourselves there more often. And there's things to look for that take us out of it. And so then we can be aware of some of the traps.
So I'm hearing, I want to be in that yumminess. And that can put up a red flag in a lot of our doing mind, because it can seem like fun is frivolous. But here's the thing. We will find that we can have fun and enjoy life as we meet our goals. Right? They don't have to be mutually exclusive. That's a myth we've been taught. I actually like to use the word myth for something else. So I'm going to say that is a falsehood that we've been taught. We can strive for things, go for things in life, and enjoy the life that we're living at the same time. But that is an art. And as you're saying, it's practice. I mean, that's the bad news about being human. If you want your body to stay healthy, you've got to move your body. You've got to eat healthy food.
Use it or lose it, right?
Yeah. And if you want your mind to be a certain way, it's going to be what you practice every day. Eventually, we start to see we are practicing every day.
Right. We're just practicing totally in our mind. Right? Totally in our mind.
Yeah. So it's worth it. But discovering that takes those entrances, you said.
I think it's important to talk about it with someone, or if you're by yourself, to write it down. And then you're going to have a relationship with this way of being.
To notice when you're in that state.
Right. So practice saying, oh, I'm in it, or I'm out of it. Or at least at the end of the day going, yeah, I mostly didn't get there.
That takes 30 seconds to assess your day and say, how much was I in autopilot? How much was I present?
Yeah. And there's other things. You can have touchstones throughout the day. So it could be anything from a randomly set timer to every time you drink a glass of water, you're going to stop for just a moment and you're going to ask, hey, am I here? Am I in yummy land? Am I looking at what's here? So again, it's the noticing. And then just taking a moment to ask yourself, how do I want to go forward? And practicing maybe one time going, oh, wow, check out those clouds. Or, oh, look at that pillow that I just got that's on my couch that so-and-so gave me for my birthday. Or taking a moment.
You've mentioned verbalizing.
Yeah, verbalizing is really important. I think it does something different for our brain than just thinking it.
It's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes that whole day, we all verbalize to each other.
Yeah.
So we pretended together. But when I'm alone, I find I'm walking in the woods, and a big difference if I say, wow, look at the colors on that tree.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And verbalizing it can get our minds to recognize a little bit more as we're walking towards that mindfulness. Now, mindfulness practices and meditation in general
Yes.
are going to be a great aid to
Very
this.
helpful. As is a gratitude practice. I talk about that practically every time.
Yes.
But it's the same extension of noticing something and then just being thankful that you are able to experience it.
And for some people, taking the negative can work. This isn't for everybody. But if we look at some of the existential threats in our world today and we say, okay, wow, what if it's all a nuclear wasteland tomorrow afternoon? How would I have wanted to experience today?
Yeah.
And I probably would have wanted to tell the people around me that I love them. I would have wanted to give them my attention. I would have wanted to be present. I would have wanted to taste the food I'm eating. And putting your mind into that negative sense. I mean, in some of our Eastern traditions, we just wake up and we think every day about our death. Mm-hmm. Stoicism has a practice like that too, where we just think, today I die. And how am I going to live? And most of us will find we want to be our best person then.
Yeah.
We want to love strong. We want to be deeply compassionate. We want to soak in every moment of life. We want to make life better for the people around us.
Yeah, there's live strong. Could we do love strong?
Love strong.
Is that going to be kind of
copyright
infringement? Love strong. So that's really it. I think eventually this brings you to a place where you love your life. It's important to be aware of the things that trap you. That will be your list. My list traps me. And mostly it's the concepts in our head. My list says if I do the things on here, I'm being a good person, I'm getting something done, I have an accomplishment, I'm valuable to my family or society. So I have to examine that. Another thing is that we all have triggers. So it could be just between maybe your partner, when they say something, maybe there's a whole history there, and that history can come up so fast, you don't even have control because it's just this neural rut, okay? And before you know it, you're in it, and you come out, I think, whoa, they said that to me, 2 hours ago, and I've been fuming, or I've been irritated, or so recognizing for you what those triggers are, and then how much is social media, how much is technology, it's everywhere. It's part of the species that we have become so far. But where do you want it in your life? I said to my family recently, what's interesting? For us, and I'm sure for many people, we don't say, oh, I'm going to go on my phone. I'm going to go on my computer. As in, oh, I'm going to go take a walk, or I'm going to go and do something specific, like, I don't know, go to the grocery store. Being on our devices is the same as drinking or eating. It's something you do. If I'm thirsty, I drink my water. I check my text. I make some lunch. I eat my lunch. I go on my email. There's no...
It's mindless and automatic.
It's fully integrated. There's no question of, wait, I'm on a device, as in, oh, I'm smoking a cigarette, or I'm, on a run suddenly. There's things we specifically choose, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and we know we're doing them. Technology is just really not one of them. So examining your relationship with social media and technology and the news, I guess that's also a form of media, and asking how much you want, you can have control of how much you want to use that. It doesn't get to use you. It is not water, okay? I mean,
I'm going to fully admit that that's a big trigger to zombiehood for me, is these screens.
yeah.
And it's this medium that we use to do our work
We're on a screen
and
right
reach
now.
out to the world. And it's like a toxin. And so I have to be really careful because it will suck me right in.
It's very enchanting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the algorithms, I can't say that word, algorithm out there right now that people are cleverly using. They're almost like their own things now. They're the enchanters. They're figuring out how to keep you going. So that's a big thing. And then I guess the last thing I have to say is that when we want anything in life, it becomes our priority. And if you really want this, then wake up every morning and say to yourself, this is the only important thing that I'm going to do today, is I'm going to make this my goal for the day. I may do other stuff, but my primary goal is, am I in yummy land?
Am I living?
Am I on autopilot, mesmerized by Maya, or am I making an effort? Because if you don't put it really seriously high and kind of give a little weight to it, I know I normally say seriousness is bad, and really it generally is, but in this case, what we prioritize is what our life is.
Yeah. I can pretty much guarantee that if we get to our last day and we are not either, as is often the case, or so we die quickly, or we're so drugged up that our mind can't realize it. If we have a clear mind as we approach our death, we probably are going to look and we're going to be regretful of the times we weren't there. I mean, we're going to see clearly in that moment that when everything is stripped away, the important things are these moments we share with each other. These beautiful moments of being, and they don't have to be happy ones. It can be when someone's crying or upset, or all these times. And those are the real treasures in life. And to sacrifice literally all of that in order to be in zombiehood, which is comfortable. To admit, zombiehood is comfortable. That's the one advantage it has.
No, I mean,
that's
it's
the real
more
tragedy.
just numb. I'm not sure if numb is the same as comfort. But comfort is a whole different topic because there's comfort and then there's comfort. It's different video. But anyway, yeah, it's familiar. That's what it is.
Sure.
Zombiehood is familiar, and being someplace familiar is comforting to us.
Yeah. So
I want this for me and for everybody. I want people to feel as though they're on vacation in their own home and they can't believe the family that they have, or the friends, or the job, or just that you have eyes to see with and to actually feel it, not just go, okay, yep, I know in my head, great, yep, the clouds are pretty today. No. This can't be like that.
we'd have a really different world if everybody was soaked into and immersed in the process of living.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, I'm not really attached to everyone. I'm attached to just you, just you, just one person, you really feeling it. And then another person and another person.
Because you will ripple outwards, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it feels so good to share. I mean, have you ever had a shared secret conspiratorial moment with a total stranger just across a room where something just happens, you just look at each other and one of you makes a face like, whoa, and the other makes a face, ah, and then you just laugh and you never talk to that person, you never see them again, but you had that moment. I want everybody to be able to have that. Maybe not 100% of the time. We don't experience it 100% of the time, but a lot. That
moment of connection with life.
Yeah. where you can get rained on and laugh, or you can have a flat tire and go, okay, this is not what I was thinking, but how can I turn it into a story? Yeah. Getting out of the tunnel vision, out of the autopilot, and into what's actually happening.
So, thank you for joining us today, everybody. And share in the comments. That's one of our favorite things about any of our videos, is the interaction that happens in the comments. Share what you thought of this and what it brought up for you in your experiences. I do have to say and remind people, I was going to do this at the beginning, that we are being active on our Instagram now again. So Instagram.com/ReWild University.
I don't know. I recuse myself. My whole family's on Instagram, and I was like, I don't get it.
You're not on social media? How many followers do you have?
I'm on Facebook, but I don't go very often. I'm sorry for everybody
You don't
on
have
Facebook.
any followers? Loser.
Oh my gosh.
Window licker. That's what we did. Window licker. Lick the screen.
Yeah. Window licker. It goes like that.
But we are up there on Instagram.
So yeah, go on social media and find us, because that's the message.
Yeah, and if you give us more likes, our life will be better. And more followers. So make our life better, you guys. Subscribe, like this, share it with your friends.
It feels so awful to say that.
Get onto our Instagram. And
thank goodness there's nothing else.
But really, in the Instagram, what we're trying to do there is share more little moments of our life.
Yeah.
In those reels. So it's stuff some of it we're putting on YouTube, but some we're not going to. So if you want to kind of follow our family and some of our little moment-to-moment adventures and experiences of life, check that out.
Okay, we have got to go.
Wait, we got to plug Facebook, and we got to plug...
What else is there? TikTok.
TikTok.
I don't even know all the things. What's the next newest thing?
Click-clack. What?
I'm done.
You're done.
I'm out of my mind.
So much love to you all.
Oh my gosh. Mwah.
Thank you for listening or watching, whichever one you were doing here.
Yeah, and share with us.
All right. Talk with you soon.